All right. So, Francis Willard, you have a really good clip about Francis Willard. You also have one about Carrie Nation. Although Carrie Nation used lots of theatrics, it's really Francis Willard who had kind of the largest impact. The film will talk about how she uses ideas of like women's sphere to argue for the temperance movement, but it doesn't mention the Do Everything movement, and I think that's also helpful to think about the way that the Do Everything movement kind of made suffrage seem not so radical. And what the Do Everything movement does is it says, again, because temperance advocates feel that like every part of life is connected with all the ills of society can be traced back to the consumption of alcohol. The Do Everything movement suggests that within the WCTU, you could have any special project that you wanted to work on because it would be connected to, um, you know, not consuming alcohol. And then that can still be part of the WCTU. So let me explain. So, like, let's say I really was a believer in the City Beautiful movement. I want to have paved streets, I want to have trees planted. Well, I could argue that the reason the streets are so dirty is because of all the bars and the trash that comes from the people that drink in the bars. So I could actually be an advocate really for the City Beautiful movement, but I could use the WCTU as the way to kind of create that City Beautiful movement. So likewise, a woman could be a proponent of suffrage, which is really radical at the time. But she could say, look, if I have the right to vote, we've seen this before, right, with using the call domesticity. If I have the right to vote, then I could, affect change quicker. So this really radical thing, like having the right to vote, now actually had the support of some members in the WCTU because they realized they could, work a little bit faster. And so the WCTU is the single largest women's organization ever. And so these women are kind of starting to accept this really radical idea that maybe women should have the right to vote. It makes it, at least in some groups of women, a little bit more mainstream than it's been before. The other thing the video notes is Francis Willard's closest companion, and just sort of kind of glosses over the relationship that these two men shared with each other. So I give you a video link to, or a website link to look at that a little bit further, as it fits into earlier discussions we've had about female sexuality. Your textbook also addresses this in chapter 6. And the thing to think about is before, when we looked at, like, say, Emily Dickinson and Susan Gilbert, there wasn't means of being self-sustaining as a woman. And now, by the end of the 19th century, there's that possibility. Now, you're going to be, women who can afford to do this are still going to be upper-class women, but they have the possibility of getting an education, of getting a career, and then, setting up a household together. So again, you can, chapter 6 discusses that somewhat, and then I've given you a couple websites because we're going to see a similar situation with Jane Addams. Right, if you have any questions, you can leave those in the discussion board with this module. Take care.